Lejay, you're up with the Bengals. I'm excited to see what your take is here because, well,
yeah. So
I
they
didn't
had an
have a best
interesting
pick.
draft. Yeah, so to me, their best pick was Dylan Fairchild, just because I think he'll come in from day one and compete with Volson to potentially start this year. Volson started, they benched him, then they started him again. So to me, that's their best pick. Mike, you stated it. There was a couple head scratchers. Now, again, I'm not berating players, and we won't know what they truly are until 2 years down the road. But let's just look at the history of what the Cincinnati Bengals have done. It took Miles Murphy a few years ago because of traits and what he looked like, and he has not developed at all. They took the biggest boom or bust prospect in this draft at pick 17 in Shamar Stewart. 4.5 sacks his whole collegiate career. Traits out of this world, right? I think he ran in the 4.5s at almost 270. And when you turn his tape on, guys, he's a guy that constantly is making plays or disrupting plays, but he just doesn't finish plays. Like, there's constant times you turn on the tape, B-Mac, and he's in the backfield to sack the quarterback, and he just doesn't do it. Now, whether it's the quarterback like steps up or gets out of his way or he slips off the quarterback, and I actually asked him about that at the combine. I was like, I know as an edge rusher that gets frustrating. At what point does it become more of a mental block for you when you're going to finish and you just don't finish? He's like, sometimes I'm just out of control. And when I get there, I win so easily that I'm out of control and I don't make the play. And Mike had this concern about him. He was like, I don't know if you can coach that. And he might be right, because literally being able to play under control, that's a mental thing. Like, I don't know if that's coachable. Like, you got to be able to slow the process down. Actually, shout out to my guy BJ Hill, because I reached out to him and I was like, this kid has traits, bro. You just got to work with him and get him out of his head, and then you'll reap the benefits. Demetrius Knight, I thought was maybe a little rich in the second round. This is a physical downhill linebacker. Question mark on him is pass coverage. Is he a guy that can cover in space and redirect? I actually like Barrett Carter. I honestly think he might beat out Demetrius Knight in regards to being like that third linebacker. I had a higher grade on him. I had him as a third round linebacker. So I would say between him and Dylan Fairchild, those were my two best picks. The first two picks were, I don't want to say head scratchers, but there's some concern there.
Okay, I am up next. I have the Seattle Seahawks. Their best pick, Nick Emmanwori, in the second round. Great value. I love this matchup, this relationship with Nick Emmanwori and his head coach and Mike McDonald. When Mike McDonald saw that Nick Emmanwori was available, he instantly said, Kyle Hamilton Part 2. And we saw what type of great football relationship he created with Kyle Hamilton when he was calling defensive plays for the Baltimore Ravens. Actually helped tutor and develop Kyle Hamilton, one of the best safeties in the game. So clearly he has a great game plan in store for Nick Emmanwori and the way they utilize their defense. And of course, it makes sense as well, because another physical big safety player used to play for Seattle and Cam Chancellor. So this is a great situation for them. And it definitely will work out well for either side. In terms of head scratching decision or pick, I have none. I love Seattle's draft. Let's look at the first 6 picks, right? You got Greg Zabel in the first round, Nick Emmanwori in the second. You had an extra second round pick. You took Elijah Oworo, one of the more athletic tight ends in the draft. Then you took Jalen Milroe in the third. You took Riley Mills quietly. That could be a big time defining type pick as well in the fourth. And you took Torrey Horton in the fifth. Like, those first 6 picks, I believe all 5 of those guys, except Jalen Milroe, probably will contribute to some degree during their rookie campaign, in my opinion. And Jalen Milroe, who knows, they might have a package or 2 for him, but with Sam Darnold being healthy and signing that deal, he's more of a developmental piece in year 1. But every other name that I mentioned, guys, they're going to contribute in year 1. And I think they're going to have a lot of success. So shouts out to Seattle. I have no issue with their draft.
I like Damian Martinez in the 7th too. I thought that.
I'm about saying Ricky White is a special teamer in the 7th.
Yeah, those were some steals. They had a great draft. Speaking of great draft, the Bucs were, I think I tweeted this out yesterday, the closest any team came to every single player being picked being actually higher on my board than where they got drafted. Now, Emeka Egbuka was just a couple spots lower, but this was an awesome draft, man. My best pick, my favorite pick was David Walker. I've talked about him a bunch.
Ooh.
Central Arkansas edge. I think him rushing in that defense right next to Yaya Diaby is like a powerful combo. Those guys fit and pair nicely together on third downs. And just, I love that they don't need him to play anything other than just like third downs. They already got everything else in that defense. He's just kind of a luxury pass rusher now. And that's where I think he can outperform where he's drafted as a luxury pass rusher. So love that one. Love their day 2 corners. Those guys, I think, can be stars. The only head scratcher, and it's not necessarily a head scratcher because I would have gone Jahdae Barron instead of Emeka Egbuka. I think Jahdae is perfect for Todd Bowles' defense. That would have been, you wouldn't necessarily have had to go to the day 2 corners, but like you did, you got him. Egbuka, you got a 3-up, you got a 4-up of wide receivers that I thought they loved. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan, Trey Palmer. Now Evans might be gone after this year. Godwin, no telling how he comes back from that ankle injury. That was pretty gruesome. And McMillan's like a fine number 3. I'm not sure he was ever going to be like the number 1 in that offense for how much, not liked him that much. So Egbuka will still play a role, but that's just like the head scratcher is just, he may not, we may be 2 years into this. And it's just like, where is he is the issue I have with that pick.
Jahdae Barron would have been ideal for them at 19.
Yeah, Jahdae would have been.
Oh my God. And he literally went the next pick. That's what makes it even a bigger head scratcher. I'm with you, Mike. Like when you look at Emeka Egbuka, his skill set is similar to Chris Godwin and Jalen McMillan. So it's like if you're gonna go receiver first round, it needed to be Tet or just wait to the second round to get Jaden Higgins or somebody else that fell to you in the second round. But other than that, he's a hell of a football player, so don't get it twisted. But every other pick was a home run pick. I mean, Tess Johnson, even in the 7th round, talking about immense value. But one of my favorite picks, and I actually called Todd Bowles about this, was Elijah Roberts. Let's not forget they took Logan Hall a couple years ago, and he has that same skill set. Logan Hall will be a free agent after this year, so it made sense for there to get a similar body type in Elijah Roberts. And like you, Mike, I had him as a 3rd, 4th round pick, so to get him in the 5th was amazing value. I got the Denver Broncos next, and there's nothing wrong with their draft at all. I mean, their first 2 picks might have been the best combination in this draft. To me, when you talk about specifically what they're going to do on their team. From day 1, Jahdae Barron is going to start in the slot and lock that down. They have 2 really good corners. As a matter of fact, they have the Defensive Player of the Year in PS2 on one side. And before the injury, Riley Moss was playing Pro Bowl type football. I think people tend to forget that because he got abused by T. Higgins in the playoffs, which T. Higgins is one of the better receivers in football. But Riley Moss, you would assume, would get back to where he was before the injury. And now you slide Jahdae Barron at slot. And then you also have Jaquan McMillan. So now you got depth in the cornerback room. And then R.J. Harvey is the perfect back for Sean Payton's offense. Like that guard pull with Quinn. Just imagine Quinn Miners pulling on power and then R.J. with the patience that he runs with. And then when he gets to the second level, it's lights out. That's home run. He's going to the house. He's actually my dark horse right now for Offensive Rookie of the Year because of the team that he went to. I think he's a dark horse for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Pat Bryant, if you want to say maybe a head scratcher, I had him more as a 4th round receiver, but they took him in the 3rd. He's a big body receiver, and they kind of have that already on the outside with Sutton. So maybe that pick. But I think Savion Jones made a lot of sense. Let's not forget John Franklin Myers is in a contract year, so he may leave in free agency. They have the same exact skill set, and he went to the perfect team. Q Robinson is a guy that's going to provide depth on the outside. So I honestly thought they almost had a perfect draft.
Okay. Next up, another team that I really like their draft. I stated earlier in the show is the Pittsburgh Steelers. The best pick for me is Caleb Johnson. He's the best pick for me. The value, getting him in the 3rd round. And I know I did a mock draft for the Steelers, and most of the fans, I had Pittsburgh actually selecting Caleb Johnson in the 3rd round. Most people said he wouldn't be there in the 3rd round. They felt like he would be a 2nd round type talent. And if that was to happen, he clearly his tape says that, but he was available. They picked him instantly. A different style of back to what they already have in place with Jalen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell. Derek Harmon, like I said, it was a need for them. They had other needs, but that was the bigger need for them in terms of shoring up and improve it in the interior. And not to mention, you have an heir apparent in waiting whenever Cam Hayward decides to call it quits and get ready for his Hall of Fame campaign. Getting Jack Sawyer, he's going to be a stand-up outside linebacker. One thing I don't question with Pittsburgh, when they identify outside linebacker talent, stand-up rushers. You look at what they did a few years ago with Nick Herbig. He's been a wonderful player addition to them. You look at Alex Highsmith Jr. still playing at a high level, TJ Watt. Jack has so many great minds to learn from to improve his skill set. I love that pick as well. You still got your quarterback. You took Will Howard in the 6th. When you look at his skill set, I mean, there's some concerns, but he is a player. Clearly, they really valued him. You look at Ohio State's pro day, they sent the masses to do their due diligence to study him. He was available. They select him. And all in all, I guess the only head scratching thing would be the first round decision. But now as we talk back and forth about the draft, clearly many teams had the same sentiment in terms of the type of talent that Shedeur Sanders was, because other teams passed on him in the first 4 rounds. Pittsburgh felt the same way. They took a defensive tackle. Let's see how it plays out. But one thing I talked about, outside rusher, linebacker, identifying talent. They know how to identify talent in terms of interior defensive linemen as well. So I'm okay with that pick.
Yeah, I would ask you this question about Jack Sawyer, because he is, again, this is not me berating him, but I just didn't see him going to a 3-4 team.
I already knew
he's kind of stiff. He's stiff.
Yes.
Like, and again, this is not disrespectful. He plays hard as hell, and I love everything about him when you turn on the tape.
Yes.
But as far as scheme fit, and I'm always a big proponent of scheme fit, because I hate when people call dudes bust, but then teams don't put dudes in the perfect positions to have success. And not even a perfect position. You only got to put me in a perfect position, but just don't let me work against myself because of the scheme. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
that was my concern. I wonder, do they put weight on him and kick him inside as a 3-4 guy?
No. He's playing stand-up outside rusher. That was my concern as well, because Jack Sawyer was still available because of the lack of athleticism that he did not have. He's a football player. Now, my response would be, do you remember a player by the name of Lamar Woodley? We drafted Lamar Woodley.
He was pretty stiff too. You're right.
Yes, we drafted Lamar Woodley years ago when I was there in the 2nd round. He was a hand in the dirt edge rusher for Michigan his entire career. Never stood up, and he was a bit heavier than Jack, and he probably was not as athletic as Jack. But they coached him up, and he had a phenomenal career for us. Had a great NFL career in totality. So that's the thing. I never really questioned what Pittsburgh sees when they identify outside rushers for their system and interior defensive linemen, because they usually hit on those said guys. And Lamar Woodley is basically who Jack Sawyer is. Lack athleticism, a bit stiff in the hips, but he came to Pittsburgh, became an outside rusher, and had an outstanding career along with winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's actually a really good comp. I'm glad you brought that